Hello, my name's Julie Williams, Registered Migration Agent with Migration Down Under, and I'm here today to talk to you about skilled migration, a very popular topic. Skilled migration is an independent or state-sponsored migration for those who are not in Australia or who are in Australia with an occupation on the medium long-term list that doesn't have an employer to sponsor them but can independently apply for their own permanent residency or possibly their own temporary residency work visa that would lead to a pathway to permanent residency. Skilled migration has changed quite dramatically over the last couple of years, and it continues to do so and become a lot more difficult for candidates to be able to obtain their dream of receiving permanent residency for Australia. As of July 2018, the government increased the minimum points requirement for the expression of interest to 65. But sadly, in reality, if you do have 65 points, that's not going to be sufficient to obtain an invitation to lodge your permanent residency. Now, your expression of interest will sit in the pool for 2 years unless you've received an invitation to apply for permanent residency. In reality, we're seeing that you really need a minimum of 70, and in more popular occupations, you need a minimum of 75. So just looking over the invitation rounds from July, which they are now monthly on the 11th of each month, unless they change it again. Previously it was every fortnight, but now it's only once a month. And looking at that, they have from the July intake, August, September have increased the number of invitations they are sending out. But we're seeing a trend that for those people that have got 75 are getting an invitation, 70 in some of the less popular occupations are also receiving an invitation. However, they're not receiving an invitation immediately. A long while ago, invitations used to come out a lot more frequently, and you could usually be assured that if you're meeting the points, then you would get an invitation the next round. But now we're finding candidates waiting several months before they're actually invited to get to apply for residency, even though they've got the desired 70 or 75 points. And the reason being for that is they do it in a strict order of receipt. The large volume of applications that are in there, and the competitive nature of the current skilled migration program. So, for example, if somebody updates their expression of interest because they have got another year work experience that provides them with an additional 5 points, or maybe they've improved their English and gained them another 10 points, and if that jumps them up to say 80 or 85, well above the 70-75, that will increase your chances in getting an invitation, but it will also jump you ahead of everybody else in the queue. So the higher quality the candidate, the higher the points are going to continue to increase. Now, if you've got an occupation that's not in the more popular IT, engineering, accounting sector, then 70 points would tend to see you get an invitation, but you could be waiting a minimum of 4 months before you do receive an invitation. The other occupations with IT and engineering, if you've got 75 points, it tends to fluctuate, 70, 75, but in the last round of September, we haven't got the figures for October yet, they haven't yet been released, as showing 75 points for engineers and IT professionals. The other popular occupation is accountants. Accountants, auditors, they're really now needing 80. I guess the good news is July they were requiring 85, so August, September it has gone down to 80. Very competitive, and also very competitive in the 489 pathway, where the New South Wales government has opened up a lot of regional areas that are wishing to sponsor 489. For example, Orana opened up one day and closed in the same day due to the demand. So just be aware that even if you've got 65 or 70 or 75 points and you're thinking, oh, I'll go for state sponsorship to get the additional 5 points, everybody else has got that same mindset, and therefore the competition for gaining state sponsorship is just as competitive as it is to gain an invitation to lodge your permanent residency. Just looking over the figures of state sponsorship for the 190, in the last 3 months there's been over 1,500 invitations for state sponsorship. Victoria has held almost half that, with over 700 odd invitations in the last 3 months. So Victoria is certainly leading the way as far as state nominations, followed by Queensland, and then I think it's New South Wales and the ACT. But be aware, all these different states require different criteria. If you're overseas, sometimes it can be a little easier than if you're in Australia, because, for example, if you've been living, working, studying here in New South Wales, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to obtain a sponsorship from another state, as each state wants to see your genuine desire to live and work in their state. And usually invitations tend to go first to those that are already living in that state, perhaps that have studied in that state, or have got a job offer in that state. So while some of the criteria for other states may be a little bit more lenient, look closely, because it may not, without a job offer, it may not be a possibility to relocate to that state if you're not already living in that state. The other area is the 489 pathway. That is a provisional visa, but it gives you a pathway to permanent residency. And it's proving very popular in New South Wales at the moment because of the competitive nature of people in the metropolitan areas, especially Sydney, all vying for state nomination. They are tending to seek regional sponsorship, and the regional sponsorship will give you a 4-year visa, the 489. And if you live in that regional area for a minimum of 2 years and work in your nominated occupation for a minimum of 1 year, that will give you a pathway through to permanent residency. So it's always good to do your homework as far as looking at the different regional areas offering sponsorship for certain occupations, because whilst it can look enticing and your occupation's there, have a little look and make certain that the employment is going to be there as well. Because, for example, if you're an architect and you get sponsored by an area, say the Central West out near Dubbo, Bathurst, Cowra region, make sure that there is employment opportunities, that you are going to be able to work full-time as an architect out in those areas. So lots happening in skilled migration. I can empathise and understand everyone's angst and frustration as it's becoming a lot more difficult and a lot tighter to get those invitations. But there are means and ways. If you have got good work experience, there's a lot of emphasis on having the relevant work experience, and also having a strong command of the English language. So don't give up. There's always a way, and we're here to help you and happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you're in Australia, our numbers are 02 9419 5411, and if you wish to email us, info@migrationdownunder.com. We've got a team of very experienced and professional agents here to assist you.